Hello and welcome to another episode of Caged In, a weekly podcast where I take you through the life and career of Nicolas Cage. This week I'll be talking about the 2015 The Runner, a political scandal movie which sees Nicolas Cage play a disgraced congressman. Perfect. What we need right now is to talk about a film about disgraceful politicians. I thought there was no one better to speak to about this film with than a fantastic comedian and podcaster, Rich Wilson. He's a very, very strongly opinionated guy and also immensely, immensely funny. And there's nowhere you can hear that better than his podcast. Well, his two podcasts. So he has Insane in the Membrane and Insane in the Fembrane podcasts, which you can get wherever you get podcasts, and we talk about that in the episode. So I won't bore you too much talking about all that stuff. But yeah, Rich was an absolute gent, and we had a lovely time recording this. Well, I know I did. I don't know. I can't really speak for Rich, but I assume he did. Perfect. So I'll mention this in the beginning, as normally I save this till the end, but seeing as time is quickly approaching to it, you have until the 31st of August to enter a competition to win a 1 of 100 print, a Caged In Tim Hornsby Superman Lives print. All you have to do is just get in contact with the podcast and say, what is your favourite Nick Cage film and why? You can do that through social media, which is all at Caged In Pod on Facebook, Twitter and Instagram, or you can go over to iTunes, Apple Podcasts, and leave a rating review and just tell me what your favourite Nicolas Cage film is and why, and I'll pick my favourite to send out one of those for free, just a bit of fun. And you'll also get, if you want it, I'll be doing a personalised recording of a section of the Declaration of Independence for the lucky winner. Just again, I thought that would be pretty funny. If you don't want that, tell me, and I won't do it. I'll give it to someone who wants it. So I won't waffle on anymore, and I'll let you enjoy this episode with the fantastic Rich Wilson. In the aftermath of the Deepwater Horizon BP spill in 2010, a politician puts his head above the parapet, but he's got a few skeletons lurking in his closet. Nick Cage stars as Colin Price in 2015's The Runner. Every time there's a political scandal, there's always spin doctors that come into play. We know the tactics they play, whether it's false claims on buses or eye tests during a pandemic. This week, I've enlisted my very own spin doctor to get to the bottom of this situation and what this film is about, and that is in the form of fantastic comedian and podcaster Rich Wilson. How are you today, Rich?
I'm good. How are you?
Yeah, I'm not too bad, all things considering. I guess I don't know. It's a weird day today. Obviously, there's all speculation. Yeah, I guess like this film is about politics, and obviously we're living in very weird political times, and I guess there's all talks of lifting the lockdown and what that means for the future of us as people. I don't know. How are you coping with everything? Obviously,
all right. You have days, where especially with comedy, like we lost everything in like 20 minutes.
Yeah,
and you sort of spending the last sort of 3 months working out what your next move is, what you're going to do. Same with a lot of people, not just comedians. Loads of people lost their jobs straight away, so it's a bit galling when the people that we've entrusted with leading us out of this, bullshit, don't know what the fuck they're doing, and they're just carrying on with their lives, doing whatever. Like Cummings is driving wherever he pleases, where the rest of us can't even go to Asda for a bottle of milk after 10 o'clock. It's like, if we trusted our politicians a bit more, if they were doing their job properly, it'd be a lot easier. But at the moment,
I guess that's something that this film speaks to, and we'll get into it in all due time. But before we get into it, I always like to ask a few questions at the beginning to kind of see what your relationship to Nick Cage is like. And the first one is always, are you a Nicolas Cage fan?
Yeah. Do you know what? I don't go out of my way to see his movies, but I'm really happy that he exists. I just like him. I just like the, he's living this extraordinary life. And whenever you hear about him, and they go, "Oh, Nick Cage has done this now," you go, "Good. That's what I expect from Nicolas Cage." It makes life a lot better knowing that someone like that is running around being a bit mental and and doing any film that comes along. And he gets knocked all the time, but I love him. I think he's great.
Well, I think he's only comparable, really. I was kind of going through it the other day, and like the only other actor I'd think is like kind of up there with him is Willem Dafoe, and just that they kind of like have got these really like massive careers of like 100+ films, and will be in something batshit crazy, and then they'll do something that's really like high budget, or like
Yeah.
they will just take anything, and they do really interesting films. Obviously, like Nick Cage recently has like kind of come back as this, I don't know, he's doing a lot of weird art house horror films, whether it's like Mandy or Color Out of Space.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And then Willem Dafoe's similar with like The Lighthouse and stuff like that. And obviously, I don't know, he's carved out this little niche for himself, whether it's been in like all the Wes Anderson films.
Yeah.
I know from hearing on other podcasts and stuff, you're a big fan of Grand Budapest Hotel, and
Yes, I am. Yeah.
Willem Dafoe's character in that is absolutely fantastic. Like,
I'm a huge fan of Willem Dafoe. I think when you see those actors, that they might appear in like the odd blockbuster, but I think that's like anybody. They do these big sort of, these jobs that aren't very fulfilling, but they pay really well. And then that affords them to do the things they actually want to do. So that's the sign of a great actor, is just, you can actually see it. You go, "Oh, look, he's in Spider-Man. I'm sure he enjoyed it." But, he really wants to do these little weird and wonderful, like I say, these art house films. And I think, they're in it because someone like Willem Dafoe, Nicolas Cage as well, probably, they love acting. And so they learn something from every project that they're in. So they'll do anything because it's more about the process and learning and being better. And so people slag it off, but I think he's brilliant.
well, that's the thing for me is like Nicolas Cage, like even in these films that, like The Runner, not the best film in the world, but he still brings like a bit of his like kind of, he'll give you something interesting in every film he does. Do you know what I mean? Whether it's just like a kind of a look in a scene, or at one scene he might be like, "Whoa, what's he done there?"
Yeah.
Like he pulls something out of the bag that's just like, "Oh, I weren't fucking expecting that." Do you know what I mean?
No.
Like he's like an off the wall character, and it always
Nobody does Haunted better than Nicolas Cage. He has that look where everything's, he's just like, "Oh, this is bad." No one does it better than Nicolas Cage.
Perfect. So, what was the first Nick Cage film you remember seeing? Was there a specific one that jumps out to you?
No, he's just always been around. I think I think it was Raising Arizona was the one that he probably did some little ones here, there, and everywhere, but Raising Arizona was the one. And I remember when that came out, no one said it was cool. No one, like now it's got a kind of like a cult following to it. But when it came out, I remember people liked it. They never raved about it as far as I remember. And I didn't watch it straight away. I would have been not too young, but I would have been interested in other things. So it wasn't until later on I saw it. And for me, it was then you go like I said, I don't actively seek out a Nicolas Cage film, but when they're on, I don't switch them off.
Well, like his career has got some absolute like ITV3 like smashers, like your Con Airs, The Rock. Do you know what I mean? They'll be on hard rotation on like, I don't know, like your what would now be classed as like your dad films. Do you know what I mean? Like that kind of mid 90s run. You'll probably like, you'll be able to pick them up in HMV for like, they'll be wheeled out on like the Father's Day specials or something like that. Like a good old action movie.
They do a dad's box set.
Yeah. So what is your favourite Nick Cage film? Obviously.
Do you know what I love? I loved him in Kick-Ass as the dad. I thought that was a spectacular performance. He was, and then when he's on fire, and when he was getting killed, he's getting burned alive, and yet he was still giving advice to he was still
Yeah.
fighting it, and it's such a great performance. I think he was great in that. I just love him in anything. In anything, he's always brilliant. It was a brilliant line. He was in a film. I can't remember what it was called, but it was with David Caruso. You know, the redhead guy from
Kiss of Death.
Kiss of Death. Yeah, it was Kiss of Death. And there's this bit where they're I can't remember what had happened, but he's having a go at this fella, and he says to him, he goes, like, clean up your own backyard. Like, before you start getting involved in other people's business, sort your own shit out, you know. And I'm like, ah.
Yeah, he looks fantastic in that as well, doesn't he? He's kind of got this little like pencil thin goatee and like draped in velour tracksuits, kind of like, I don't know, that New Jersey scumbag, like mid-level gangster. Yeah, that's a fantastic little shout.
He's just digging this. He says, clean up your own backyard, and you're like, whoa. And that stayed with me. That it's a great metaphor for life. Like, stop getting involved in other people's business. Sort your own yard out.
Yeah, perfect.
You know? So I think Kick-Ass. I really like this stuff like Drive Angry. Like it's so bad that it's good. Or when he was in the remake of Gone in 60 Seconds, they tried to make the bad guy look interesting by calling it was called like the Carpenter or something shit like that. He was always whittling and always building something, like he was like this like eccentric weirdo, and it just didn't quite work.
Well, it's probably quite hard to paint a character as an eccentric weirdo when your main character is like Nicolas Cage.
An eccentric weirdo.
Yeah, he was famously known for being like the guy's got his like tomb already built for him.
Yeah, the pyramid.
Yeah. Which is like, how going into any movie can you go like, oh, I want you to play like an eccentric bad guy here, and it's like, well, Nick Cage's personal life already paints him out to be a kind of like on paper an eccentric bad guy, even though like from everything, like he seems like quite a reasonable. There's that from what I know, there is no scandals of Nick Cage. Like,
no, not really. Nothing of, not of him being a sex pest or anything like that. I mean, he's been a bit rambunctious in places. He's been, I say that now. Watch it all come piling out.
Yeah, that's it. But that's when this pivots to being the Willem Dafoe podcast.
Yeah.
Perfect. So it's probably best to talk about The Runner.
I'm gonna make sure these bastards pay for what they've taken from you.
All right, Congressman.
This is the most devastating man-made environmental disaster in U.S. history. These people are the Louisiana Gulf Coast. Need our help. Even though this is British petroleum spill, it is America's ocean.
That speech was a godsend. Don't blow it.
This is what we've been waiting for. Today it appears the sun is shining on a Louisiana congressman nobody knows.
It is in everyone's best interest to keep American oil healthy. I'm looking to back a horse that will support our interests.
What makes you think I'd do this?
We'll make sure that you're in the center of it all.
Colin's not going to have one solitary friend in Washington.
Colin, you're not going to resign.
Louisiana's always been one big family, and we don't abandon our family when they make a mistake.
You don't have to be the hero. You just have to make it look good.
What the hell is that supposed to be? We're in the middle of a disaster here. People are suffering. We're not just going to lay down.
You're not going to win. We'll see.
People are broke, sick with dispersants. You're the only one down here doing a goddamn thing for us.
And I want people to know I'm going to be there for them.
You are in uncharted waters.
You keep risking everything that we work for?
Just gotta fight through it like a man.
Great men who build legacies, they aren't always decent.
What was your first impressions of the film?
Well, it's one of those films I can't remember why I watched it. I think someone else had said to me, "You should check this out." And then you're watching it and you're like, "Yeah, okay, yeah, I get it." Another dodgy politician who, I mean, his character isn't as dodgy as others. He was like a good man, but he's a man, and men are beasts, and men can't help themselves a lot of the time when it comes to something that when it comes to sex, it always seems to be sex that fucks men up.
Well, this
and men. I think men. We need to talk about the fact that men are, like I've already said, men are beasts, and all of us, bar none, right? We all deal with these mad fucking thoughts every second of every day. That you walk around and go, "Oh, she's nice. Oh, that's nice." Or that, I mean, you're. And we need, and most of us have got a handle on it, and we don't react to those thoughts and feelings. Like we don't, like if you see someone that you find attractive, you don't go wandering over to her and start trying to start a conversation, But some men haven't got that. They still think they can just, for some reason, they're like, "Oh no, I'm not a creep. It's everybody else." And it's like the same. And so all these films, it's always where the guy, he let his dick rule the world. He let his dick make all the decisions, and it fucked him.
Well, it's quite an interesting one because from doing some background reading and from watching the film, it automatically jumped out to me of the real life case of Anthony Weiner, who was I
hadn't seen it. You told me about it, and I hadn't seen it. Yeah, exactly. It was the same, wasn't it? He'd done that. He had that impassioned speech.
Yeah.
So that everybody believed in him, and that's what happened in the Nicolas Cage film. They just caught a moment on camera and they're like, "Wow, this is the man," because he's so honest. And then it turns out he was, having sex with people that he shouldn't have been. And people are so fickle, they forgot straight away about all the good stuff. They just went, "Yeah, he was doing that." You go, "Yeah, because he's a human being, as well as being a man. He's a human being." And people aren't allowed to make mistakes. And it was difficult to feel sorry for him though.
Nicolas Cage's
Nicolas
character.
Cage, yeah.
Well, this film is kind of weird because it doesn't really settle on an arc for the character or follow just this is a redemptive tale of a guy who, do you know what I mean, did something bad, but deep down he is a good guy, which is an interesting character kind of study in itself. They kind of try and add in all these other elements of the drunk semi-abusive dad who's kind of made him suppress all these feelings, and he's from what we gather a recovering alcoholic, and they throw in this B plot line of a love interest with his publicist, Sarah Paulson's character, and it's just a bit and you don't from watching it the second time, I not in any way. I didn't from the relationship he had with his wife. It wasn't really a surprise when you found out he was cheating. Not obviously to blame her in any way, but it's you see the cracks. It's not like he was. I don't know. He's painted out to be an arsehole completely. It's a very weird one because there you see this very weird I don't know. It's like he's being controlled by everyone else in his life, whether it's the spectre of his father, who was a politician, or his kind of power-hungry wife, who.
She was pushing him to. And then she said, "Look, if you don't do this deal, then I'm going to leave you." And so that was coming into play, and then you find out that he was having an affair with his publicist as well.
Yeah.
And that's when when he first, so all the stuff came out about him, and then he had to stand down, and then it's it cuts out 9 months later, and he's kind of figuring out what he's going to do. Then you started to feel for him. You go, all right, because he was trying to, he started up the charity, and he was still trying to do the work that he was doing when he was a politician. But then that when you find out about the affair with the publicist, you kind of going, "Oh, mate, I thought it was going to be," and then they tried to make it out like it was like they loved each other and it was just difficult for them.
Yeah. Well,
it didn't really fit. I still didn't feel sorry for him.
Well, there's really funny moments in this, and just the portrayal of a guy who's clearly in the throes of a divorce, of like very stereotypical looks of like kind of like a bed sit. Do you know what I mean? He's always sleeping on the sofa for some reason.
Yeah.
He's just got boxes everywhere. He's like,
he's gone back to drinking.
Yeah, he's back on the booze. He has some like weird exchange with like a sex worker at some point, which is like,
oh yeah,
he kind of like, I don't know, or the film like really pushes you to be like, oh, it's getting seedy because like the camera effects go all a bit hazy and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And it's like,
it's like, well, that goes to show you again, sex, because like the man's his life's in the bin. He's got nothing else. He's got no one else to turn to. And then it's always portrayed like men go off and find sex workers, or they'll go and do, you know, and it's always back to sex with men. And we need to get more of a handle on it, because it's fucking us up. Oh, like now we're in the middle of this, like, you know, people are now coming out about people that have been abused, and they're trying to, and they're knocking, they're trying to sort that out. And it needs to come down to men. Men need to admit that it's problematic, and that's how we'll make changes, you know?
Well, I'd say for like one of the interesting points about this film is it deals with like things not in a great way, but it has the potential to deal with like really important subject matters, like you mentioning, like this kind of thing of like I don't know whether it's like the Me Too movement or just the kind of cancel culture that like we live in. Or this, like even today, like moments before like coming on to chat to you, I was just, all you have to do is look on Twitter and just see like who's trending, and today it's Mel Gibson, Jimmy Kimmel, Tina Fey, and then it's like bang bang bang, like all this stuff has happened about them, and it's like, oh, fucking hell, maybe I need to like, I don't know how, like it's obviously got its pros and it's got its cons, doesn't it? Because obviously like this film shows that like this guy is trying to do a good thing. It's just like his personal life has managed to get in the way of his political. But like with that, it's like where is the line, basically?
Yeah, but it's that. Yeah, we don't. I think this cancel culture thing is just getting out of hand now. Now people, you know, if you do something wrong, there should be space as well for reconciliation and you know, so you should be allowed to atone for what you've done. There should be compassion. You know, this thing that we all have to lose everything over one discretion. You know, it's that there needs to be we need to have more of a conversation so we can meet halfway and go, well, what about, you know, there must be room for redemption. And you know, unless you're an evil sack of shit and what you've done is completely disgusting and heinous, and then you should absolutely have everything taken away from you. But I think there needs to be more of an understanding, like why are men sliding into women's DMs? Why are men sending messages out saying, I'll pay you for pictures of your feet? Like why are men doing that? And that's what we need to go back to. It needs to go right the way back to when we're really little kids, and we talk about how we're taught how to conduct ourselves in public amongst people, because we do have these thoughts and feelings. And some people, like I said earlier, they think it's all right to ask in a certain way for these things, and it's not all right. It's not all right at all. And that's why we're in this massive tsunami now of outing people, and it's a massive overcorrection as well. So we're getting what people are hurt and they're upset. So they want those feelings dealt with. They want that they want those people cancelled, because that's how they're like, yes. But that won't be it. That feeling will still be there. So let's deal with why the feelings are there in the first place. Why are men doing what they're doing? You know, it's complicated, but let's go back to the beginning.
Yeah, and to your point of like, we need to start early. Like I've got an 18-month-old son, and like that's something I just constantly like. I'm having to educate myself, because I haven't done anything heinous or anything like that. But even I, do you know what I mean? Like seeing all this stuff happen, you question a lot of your own. Like, how have I been in situations? Do you know what I mean? Like, how could that have looked to like from someone else's perspective and stuff like that, whether it's like sexual encounters or just kind of dealing with women in general, like, and now I'm like, oh, like, and even at the like early age, like doing like, luckily I have the resources of the internet and stuff like that, being able to like, there's so much stuff now to obviously like generationally we can push it forward to whether it's books on how to raise like a feminist child who understands from that very early age of how to deal with like the opposite sex and just be sensitive to not just everyone's needs. And it's crazy. It's crazy that like this kind of stuff, like, I don't know. Yeah, like you said, men are beasts. Like,
and I know men listening to this, you go, "Who's this prick?" You go, if you're honest with yourself, like you've been and I've been, we have those thoughts and feelings all the time. Men, we are men and women. Human beings are animals. We need to get back to that. We get this sense of self. It's super inflated, like we're important and we're this, we're that, but we're animals. We're just more aware than other animals. So we know that when we see someone we're attracted to, we can't just go over there and grab them and have sex with them. We know that. But the thought, this right down in the back of your head, these thoughts that are, that are there, and because men just want to fuck, want to eat, and if we can't do either of those things, we don't want to. We don't know. We're just eating and fucking all the time. And those are the thoughts and feelings that we need to work out. We go, yeah, all right. That's. It gets easier as you get older, but when you're a kid, when you become of age, and you're like, I just want to have sex. I need to have sex. I've eaten. I'm fine. I just need to have sex now. And that's what you're dealing with. And we need to be taught how to handle that beast inside of us. It's fucking hard. It's hard.
And that's what, like, one of the things, like, there's a real shame about this film that it doesn't kind of, I don't know, it's very televisual for one, and like me saying about the Anthony Weiner thing, immediately as soon as I saw that thing, like the sexual scandal, because at the beginning you kind of don't know where the film's going to go. Is it going to kind of be like this, I don't know, damning statement on like how like BP handled the oil spill crisis, or like and it kind of takes this left turn. But then as soon as that kind of reveal came, I was like, oh, I remember watching that documentary. That's wicked. Like, I want to stick that back on. Like, at least at the heart of it, you've got this interesting, well-rounded character, and in this, it's kind of, they try and shoehorn all that in, like I said before, with all this kind of like, we've got his dad over here, we've got the publicist over here, we've got the wife, like the wife like back here or whatever, and it's all a bit, I don't know, it all kind of like at the end, like even watch it, because I watched it maybe like a couple of weeks ago. Obviously things happened, we had to postpone the podcast, and then I was like, it came to today, and I was like, you know what? I don't really remember a lot about the film. Fuck, I'm going to have to stick it back on. That's kind of like, and I think that's as damning of a statement you can kind of make about a film, is that like 2 weeks on, and I'm like, what?
I mean, I haven't seen it for years, so I watched it this morning just to recap. But yeah, if you can't remember after 2 weeks, it says it all. But it's I think maybe it would have worked better as a TV series then. Like not necessarily season after season, but maybe a 6-season thing. They could have got more into the characters. There could have been a more nourishing finish to it, or a conclusion. There wasn't really a conclusion. They didn't deal with the oil spill and BP and what was happening there. They didn't deal with him and his, what was going on with him. Even though he loved his publicist, but he was obviously troubled. They didn't deal with any of that. And the last thing that he was, his wife, he crashes the car into the garage, his wife's house, and she's like, oh, and you can see she loves him, but, it didn't do anything. It didn't go anywhere.
Well, that scene of the, like, car going through the garage is just kind of, to me, just felt like, oh, like, we really need to, like, show a cathartic...
Crowbar in the drama in,
Yeah. We really need, like, a cathartic burst of energy of, like, he's really got to boiling point here. And it's like, well, we're running out of runtime here, because this is, like, a very solid 90-minute film. And it's like, you could tell, like, the the producers were there with a big stick going like, you better not fucking go over that runtime. And they've gone, that's it. We'll
We haven't got the budget. We ain't got
Yeah.
the budget anymore. We haven't got an hour and 31. We just can't do it.
We've just got to get that car through the garage. That's going to show us that he's really hit the skids. Like,
But even though this is the sign of a good actor, isn't it? When the film around it isn't great, but their performance is still great.
yeah,
You know, it was still, the actors in it were great. You know, they were dealing with. We watched it and we don't really know where it went or what was happening. Imagine acting it, and because they wouldn't have filmed it like linear, they would have been different. So they were like, right, we're going to do the garage scene now at the top, and then we're going to work our way back. And imagine that. So it just goes to show how great they were, that they could still come out with these great performances.
well, having like Sarah Paulson there, who obviously has this like amazing like TV career through like the American Horror Story stuff, or whether it's the like O.J. Simpson like dramatization. That's what made me think like a limited series of like a kind of the idea of this. And I know I think it's like at some point there's going to be a dramatization of the Clinton impeachment and the kind of Monica Lewinsky scandal.
Oh wow!
And it's like that is how we tell this story from The Runner. Like, is in that a 10-part series that can really get into the nitty gritties of everything and kind of show this portrayal of like, you could see parallels between the character of Colin Price and like a Bill Clinton who like did some like.
Yeah, I mean, with Clinton, the more you get into the Clinton thing, you know, you watch that documentary 13th, and you see there's more. This Nicolas Cage's character was, you know, he'd had relationships with people that weren't his wife.
Yeah,
and you know, of course that's not a good thing, but it's not up there with, like, he wasn't outed as a paedophile or he hadn't raped anybody. That's, you know, whereas Clinton and those people, they're linked to some fucking horrific stuff. So even then, you know that they're not going to go, if they do this Clinton thing, they'll just focus on the Monica Lewinsky thing, because then it kind of, it's like, oh yeah, we admit he was a bit naughty. Go, no, that's not enough. What about the Bilderberg group? What about his mates? What about the 5 white racist paedophiles that live on that island that rule the world? That's what they got to get into.
And they won't. And that's the thing. I think with like dealing with these subject matters, until like there is a key shift in like the way like men behave, and like obviously we've seen throughout the last few years throughout the film and TV industry, and even lately like many other entertainment industries, like whether it's like comedy as well. Like there's been a lot of, I know recently there's been some stuff of people, like some claims, especially in regards to television in the UK and stuff like that, and people coming out with like thingies or whatever. But like until there's a change in that, like I don't think we will get these stories that really show us the warts and all of just how vile some people in politics especially are. Like, and like I think it will be like years and years. Like I don't think we've ever really seen in cinema like an actual portrayal of a politician that really, I don't know, unless it's Hitler maybe in Downfall, where like, but it's easy pickings. Like I don't think you could really. Do you know what I mean? Like nobody's really out there going like, oh, but like,
but that's it, isn't it? Yeah, no one's defending Hitler. It's like a clean. Yeah, we know he was evil. We know what he did. There's no kind of but he was really good at painting. It's like no one gives a shit. You were evil. Whereas I don't know. We need villains now aren't that clear cut, are they?
No.
You know, where they're all in each other's pockets and they're all pretending that they're doing good and all that. But again, like I said, until we change the fact that 5 white racist paedophiles rule the world, you're not going to change anything. You know, the system's the way it is because of those fuckers living on that hill. Those we get rid of them, then we'll be able to change shit. But I don't know what. Maybe we need a film. Make a film. Nicolas Cage can be the head white racist paedophile, and me and you could play the other 2. I don't know who else would be in it.
Perfect. We'll get Willem Dafoe knocking about in it as well. And trying to think of the fifth one, it would be perfect. If it comes to me, I'll shout it out.
Sam Rockwell.
Perfect.
Yeah.
As we've seen from Three Billboards, he's got the racist side down packed.
I love Sam Rockwell.
Fantastic.
In everything.
Yeah.
He's brilliant. I mean, again, like Willem Dafoe, they can be in the shittest film going, but they stand out. They're still brilliant. Meryl Streep in Mamma Mia. I fucking hate Mamma Mia and Mamma Mia 2. They're the worst films I've ever seen in my entire life. But Meryl Streep is still brilliant. Still brilliant.
Meryl Streep is amazing. Everything. There's like one film. She even worked with Nicolas Cage in some Transcendental Link adaptation. I'm not sure if you've ever seen the film Adaptation, which is like a fantastic film from the writer of Being John Malkovich, and it's this kind of meta story of a writer trying to adapt a book, and it's kind of got these dual storylines going on of the adaptation itself and the writer trying to write it, and we get these kind of convoluted scenes where it's things we've seen in the film itself. Later in the film, we see the writer writing that, and he's like, "Oh, so the script will start like this," and it's like, and we kind of get this like flat like things of him on set of Being John Malkovich, and a fantastic film, directed by Spike Jonze. So anyone, I imagine people listening to this will probably, if you're this far into Nicolas Cage's career and you haven't seen Adaptation, I don't know what you're doing, but
I haven't seen it.
A personal recommendation for you, Rich. Yeah,
I'll check it out.
Perfect. Yeah, it's obviously you picked this film. Like I know I gave you very slim pickings to choose.
I know. I was going through it. I'm like, fuck. So I just thought I thought I have seen that one. This is all right. We'll go with this one, and it gives us a chance to talk about the bigger picture.
Well, that's what this podcast is, and it's obviously sometimes for me a hard sell to people. It's like Nicolas Cage is the conduit to have a conversation about what these films like, whether it's the links that you have to cinema or the links that these films kind of tell us about the outside world, which, like in my opinion, cinema is there to do is to kind of like say like in an hour and a half, preferably, tells us a story that like tells us something about what's going on outside our front doors, or even like about ourselves, whether that's like kind of gritty kitchen sink dramas like Tyrannosaur, or even like and obviously there is space for spectacle and stuff like that, but some of the best films that like big budget action films at the heart of it have got a saying something about something. Do you know what I mean? Even Die Hard's got this kind of like, got this little nugget. If you look for it, it's got this nice story about like kind of like a dad trying to get home for Christmas to see his family. Like,
yeah. I would crawl through broken glass to get to you.
Exactly.
That's the metaphor.
I would take on a building full of like nondescript European terrorists, just to spend Christmas Day with you. Perfect.
I would lose my shoes and run around getting shot at. That's how much I love you.
Still got time to have a few ciggies as well, isn't he, old John McClane? Perfect.
Oh yeah, so that's how shit smoking is. Doesn't matter how shit the world is around you, you still got time to do that horrible habit.
Perfect. Well, like the end of this film as well, like we kind of see that like he doesn't really learn anything, does he? Because
no, but that's it, innit? The publicist. So everything goes to shit. He loses everything, and then he's still sleeping with his publicist. But then she decides that she's going to work it out with her estranged husband. And he's like, you see him go, oh, because the wife had already said, I don't want to sign the divorce papers. She obviously still loved him, didn't want to get divorced, hoped that they could work it out. And he sort of snubbed her, like, nah, I'm not interested, because he thought he had the publicist. And then the publicist turns around and says, no, we're not doing this anymore. So then he tries to go back to his wife. Yeah. And he turns up outside, and he's pressing the button for the garage doors on the drive, and they don't open. So that means she's changed the combination. He's been blocked out. So he drives the car through the gates and into the garage. Like she already decided. She gave you a chance, and you said no because you thought you were in a better place. You thought the grass was greener where you were. and it wasn't. And now you've tried to go. And that was the final bit. I went, I don't care about you anymore.
Yeah, and then it's kind of gives an added, like, I don't know, olive on the top of the cake, because it's like a bitter aftertaste.
Yeah.
Is when he does the speech, like convincing the convincing the the workers and stuff like that.
Yeah.
That going with oil is the correct, like supporting the oil companies, even though we know as the audience that is the bad decision, because there's a guy he keeps having conversations with who says, like, I will fund your political campaign pretty much if you get in my pocket and do as I say.
Which goes against everything he is, because at his core, he's a good man. He's ethically, morally correct. He's in the right place, but he cannot resist the pull of his own penis.
Yeah, the pull of his
and
own
that's what makes all of his decisions for him. And and he's still putting himself first, because he's like, he didn't want the wife, but then the publicist went back to her husband. So, I'll go with the wife then. Fuck it. It's a typical fucking bloke thing.
Well, yeah, and then we haven't even got onto the point that, like, it's got this, like, again, I don't know why it's in there. It's got this whole thing that he just, like, goes for runs all the time. And I was like, what the fuck is this? What is this trying to tell us? Like, what did that have any, like, were you like, that's really telling me?
I think it's a very well used cinema trope that they use to show thoughtfulness. Mm-hmm. So it means he's gone for a run and he's thinking things over. Whenever they do anything like that, it's because they're thinking. So rather than being it awkwardly, he's sitting there like that. It's like they make it more deep. So he's gone for a run in the early morning light, and he's just he's mulling it over. And that's something as well. Having read books and written on things now and again, so the framework. How you can see it coming. So this person, and then this person, and then their lives cross here, and then they come away here, and then it comes back at the end, and it's all that. And you see that right now. I've seen how it works.
Yeah,
I see it in nearly all films, and with this one, it was so obvious. So, he's a good man, but blah blah blah, and you're like, right, what's going to happen? And then they didn't even make what he did that bad. Like he wasn't like a real sex offender.
Yeah.
He was an adulterer, but he wasn't severe. They tried to keep it. What he'd done was wrong, but he still kind of liked him.
Well, they kind of slightly allude, because the woman he's sleeping with, like, she gets approached by a journalist, and she looks like she's at, like, cheerleading practice. But, like, I think it's a lot of the time with casting, especially in American stuff, like, I can't really, like, it's very hard to gauge how old people are. Like, you watch a lot of these, like, TV shows, whether it's like Riverdale or like 90210, like especially the modern remakes and stuff like that, like the modern ones, and you're just like, these are 28-year-old people, like playing 16-year-olds.
It was like Greece, wasn't it? The old Greeks, they're all like 30 years old playing high school graduates.
There's especially one of them who's got this kind of like face that looks like old leather, and it's like he's supposed to be a high school student. It's like, I don't fucking think so, mate.
Right, it was but there's another film. Talk about casting. We watched recently Call Me by My Name, and it's a really good film, and it starred Armie Hammer, and he's in Europe staying with this professor, and him and the professor's son. They get together secretly, but it turns out everybody knows about it, and it's a really good film. But it's Armie Hammer, and Armie Hammer is this like 6'5" American guy. He's supposed to be like an older student, kind of like in his mid to early 20s, and he's having relationships with this young lad who I think he's like of age. He's not very young, but it was still didn't fit. I was like, I don't know if Armie Hammer was the right fit for that.
Is it set in Italy or France?
Yeah, that's it. Yeah. France.
Maybe that's why they went with like only speculative. That's why they went with the location. It could be a matter of age of consent in that country. It makes it seem a bit more.
Right.
There you go. That's my cynical brain.
That's how they got around it. Yeah.
Very much coming into play there.
There's me going, no, they were of age, and then you've gone, where was this filmed?
Yeah. Or they were like, well, Italy's beautiful this time of year. Let's get the production out of there.
Yeah. Never mind those two fellas doing that. Look at the trees.
Yeah. Well, this film as well is set in New Orleans, which is like somewhere that, like, from going through all the Nick Cage films, it's a location that crops up time and time again. Obviously, like in his personal life, like Nick Cage has got a very close affection with New Orleans. Like
I think he has. New Orleans, Memphis. No, he's a huge Elvis fan, and has even, I think, talked about. Well, he was married to Elvis's daughter, or was it his daughter, or was it his ex-wife?
I always get confused.
Yeah, I didn't get who's who, but wasn't it even that for a bit?
Yes.
He loves. He's always, when I think Nick Cage, I always think of the South.
Yes.
And I don't think of skyscrapers and the that kind of world. I always think of him leather jacket, driving some crappy car somewhere. He's always troubled. He's a loner, and he's a good guy, but he fucks up. It's in most films that he's like that. You kind of maybe that's why we love him, because of the characters he plays. He doesn't really play out and out cunts.
No, that is, and it's a very interesting career in that all the time, like he's had over 100 like films like put out. Never really lent on like franchises or anything like that. It's always just played these one-off characters. Only like maybe one sequel, like the Ghost Rider films, and even them. Interesting. He plays the tortured soul so well, and as you said, like he plays pained really well, and like I think.
Especially he's haunted.
Yeah, especially now he's very much leaning into that, and I think it's something that has like come with age for him, that he's kind of carving out this niche and of this troubled man in these like bizarre situations, whether it's Mandy again and at some point in the near future we're going to see Nick Cage as Joe Exotic in a 6-part TV series, which is like something that is absolutely like. I didn't think about that as casting until it was announced, and then I was like, "Wow, I think this could work." Yeah.
You should have got the rights to the script.
Well, yeah. Well, there's another obviously I'm always like banging about online trying to find what I can about like what's coming up with Nicolas Cage, because as you saw from the list I sent you, I'm very much nearing the end of his filmography. And 2020 is very much like put a kibosh on a lot of things that normally, given any year, he will churn out at least 6 films. So like it's going to grind to a halt after 2020. But yeah, there's a script online for a film which I think is like going again. At least it's going to be interesting. A film called The Massive Weight of Brilliance, which is Nicolas Cage playing himself.
Wow, it's come full circle.
Yeah.
It's finally happened. This is what the world has been waiting for. Let's see how it'd be so good to see how he sees himself.
Well, like I've had the absolute pleasure on this podcast at times of speaking to people who have worked with him, whether it's like the director of the Crank films and Mum and Dad, Brian Taylor, or like you said, personal favourite for you, Drive Angry, the writer of that said on set, he was very self-aware, because there's a moment in the film and he's holding up some money, and Nick Cage like said on set, like between takes, he's like, well, I got to keep an eye on my money at the moment, which is like very like self-aware, because this was right around the time that he went through like a whole like tax evasion crisis. I think it was his manager didn't pay his tax, and then all of a sudden he's got to sell his castle at Loch Ness, and he's got to sell this dinosaur skull, and like that very, very bizarre.
Yeah.
Very bizarre
Wow.
things, and now we get to see. Well, eventually we'll hopefully see a film in which he plays himself, and really,
Wow.
yeah.
I can't wait to see that. That'll be magnificent.
Well, before I let you go, Rich, obviously, there's a few questions I like to wrap the whole podcast up with. First of all, would you recommend this film?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Don't just trust me when I say no good will come of it. It will definitely be a waste of an hour and a half of your time. There are better films out there that deal with this sort of thing. This ain't it. I wouldn't bother. Just take it from me. Don't do it.
And to your point, like as I mentioned earlier, like I would recommend Wiener, the documentary on Netflix at the moment, which is a perfect portrayal of this kind of situation of somebody who means good, lets his dick get in the way, and
exactly. It's the documentary Wiener is what The Runner could have been.
Yeah.
They could have got more into it. Yeah.
One thing I wanted to ask you that's like specific to this podcast is obviously like Anthony Weiner went with an alias when he was committing his like dodgy dealings, which is Carlos Danger.
Wow.
Yeah, and I wanted to know like if
and that was his undercover name.
Yeah, like which.
The ego of that. Go, yeah, I want to be undercover. So Carlos Danger. That's gonna it's gonna bring people's attention. Fucking dick.
So very much in the like it got me thinking of that old classic game of like what is your porn star name, which like, I'd imagine like is how like Anthony Weiner maybe I don't know put his name into some generator online and found out Carlos Danger would be the perfect for Anthony Weiner. So obviously the rules are quite simple, which is your first cat's or your first pet's name and the street you grew up on, like gives you what your porn star name would be. And what would that be for you today, Rich?
Oh wow. If I did it just straight down the line and go right with first pet and where we lived when I was a kid. Well, we lived in a couple of places when I was a kid.
Mm-hmm.
But it would be Smoky Chelsfield Lane.
Smoky Chelmsford is
Chelmsford.
We'll go with that. That's a pretty. But what would you choose? Have you?
I would have gone because I used to have a dog called Elvis.
Mm-hmm.
So I would have gone Elvis Crescent maybe.
Oh,
somewhere else where I grew up. Elvis Crescent sounds cooler than Smoky Chelsfield.
Perfect. I'll wrap it up with these 3 questions, and then we'll get into where people can find you. Which is, does Nicolas Cage have bad hair in this film? Obviously, he's known for sometimes sporting not the best of do's. As a very stylish man yourself, I feel like you can pass judgment on other people, Rich.
I'm very lucky to have the Barnet that I have. Very good genes, so thank you to my mum and dad for that. I have a good barber, Mr. Paul Sweeney, fellow comedian. You can find Paul Sweeney at ELP's in Angel. He's very, very. He does my hair. Joe Lycett, Rob Beckett does us all. Does Susie Ruffle? Yeah. So there's your recommendation. But yeah, Nicolas Cage, unfortunately, has not had good follicles bestowed upon him. He's not had a good do in many things, really. Bless him. Raising Arizona was a good do.
Perfect.
Kind of Ace Ventura messiness. But unfortunately, it's not been kind to him. And you can see, he's, especially in this one, I don't know what was going on with it. Bless him.
They were like, the money's going to go on the car crash. We'll skimp on the...
Yeah, we got to replace the garage doors.
Hair and makeup can kind of like, we can push down the budget.
They flung him a Just for Men and then went, the rest of the budget's going on this.
Perfect. And obviously, Cage is known for pulling out some accents in his career, whether it's Con Air with the kind of southern drawl. And in The Runner, would you say he does anything outlandish or crazy in regards to his delivery?
No, it's all very sort of played down. It's still got that southern twang, but it's not. It's obviously what they're trying to portray him as a, you know, he's a he's a learned man. He's obviously studied, and his accent has been softened because he's been educated somewhere. And I think that was so little details like that. You go, yeah, that's probably how he would sound because he's gone away and he's educated and he comes back, and so he's had to change his accent a little bit. So that really worked. I think Jason Statham is the king of shitty accents in film. He tried to, in the first Transporter film, which I think is all right, actually. It won't change your life, but if you want to just switch off from everything, good old nonsense romp, kicking the shit out of people for a bit, the Transporter. But his accent in the beginning of that is really bad. And then they obviously halfway through went, let's just ditch the fucking accent. Just keep going.
Well, again, to bring it back to like the Jason Statham and like speaking to the director of the Crank films, like he was saying like that was originally written as supposed to be like an LA cop, and Nicolas Cage was like the first choice for that role.
Oh wow!
At the time, too expensive. But then when it came to Jason Statham, and he was like kind of came to meet them, and he was like, first was like, I don't do comedy, and then was like, it's set in LA, and he knew like I can't do an accent, and they went, you know what, the film's so batshit crazy, you just do your own voice.
It won't matter, yeah.
It won't matter. Do you know what I mean? Like the premise for this film is you have to, keep your heart rate up, otherwise you're gonna die. So it's like Speed in a human.
Yeah,
right?
That was it.
And it's like the last thing you're gonna be thinking is like, we just watched a guy have sex on like a basketball court. You're not gonna be going like, oh, but he's not really nailed that LA accent.
No, I know. Yeah, it's funny with that. That's the thing with all these Hollywood films. 9 times out of 10, there's that fake. We've got to do this by this time, otherwise this will happen. It's always time constraints on every film. But how long have we got? We've got a day. You know, it's all that on every film. This didn't have. It's so open ended. It just didn't go anywhere, and there was no resolution, and there wasn't anything really.
Well, it could have really just focused on that like the scandal breaking and the pressures that has on like a family, and even like down to the fact, I don't know, like just like dramatically, I think it would have like worked better if that like as a couple, like the Prices had like a child or children, because then it like there's another avenue of something interesting you can explore, and like what that does to a family unit of like an adulterer. Whereas like it's kind of going, as I said before, it wants everything. It wants to throw in all these elements that like at the end of the day, it's I don't know, it's too many. I don't know. Sometimes like a dish can be good. With a few ingredients as opposed to going, what have I got in the cupboards? Like,
they obviously wanted to make a film that would make a political statement about what's going, about what went on, but it didn't. They didn't nail that, and they didn't nail him, and they didn't. Yeah, like you say, there was too much in there, and they didn't do much with any of it. You know.
Yeah, well, you clearly end up like going. You need to like. You'd obviously know as a comedian, like your goal is, I tell this story, my things are here, and here, punchline, do you know what I mean? Bit like Topper, whatever. Whereas like, and it's like, that's the story I want to tell, bang, bang, bang. Whereas this like just went, oh, fucking like, I've drifted off. It's like, if your story was adultery, the effects on a relationship, bang, let's see that all the way through the end. Instead it goes, bring in the BP oil, let's bring in all this other bullshit that doesn't need to be there. And
no, that's it. Even the spine of the story that the whole film rested on wasn't strong enough. None of it was strong enough. In it, you can't. Yeah, it wasn't. At the end, you didn't go, "Oh, I'm glad I saw that." You're like, "What was the point in any of it?" You know.
So one last question before I let you go, Rich, which is, do we get a Nick Cage freak out? Again, something he is known for throughout his career is going off the boil. Does he bubble over in this?
Not really. Even that, he doesn't really. He loses his rag mildly two bits, but not even. It's not your traditional Nick Cage. It's just he's like, hey, stop that, and then he moves on, and it's like, you know, yeah, it didn't even have that. It's got nothing for the Nick Cage fans out there. Just watch it because you'll feel like you want to watch them all. You know, true Nick Cage fans. I've seen them all. You know, well, leave this to the end.
Yeah, if you want to be a completist like this idiot right here, like watch this, but like it.
Watch it. Have something else lined up straight away.
Yeah, any casual fans, give it a wide berth, I'd say.
Oh, you've no need. Absolutely no need to have this in your life.
Perfect, Rich. So it's been an absolute pleasure having you on the podcast. Obviously, you have a podcast of your own, Insane in the Membrane, and now Insane in the Fembrane, which, like, I've got to say, both of them absolutely fantastic. Like,
thank you, mate. I appreciate that. That's nice to know.
Well, yeah, when it comes to Insane in the Membrane, like especially, just obviously that's been running a lot longer, and hearing those conversations, and you say it all the time in the podcast, of hearing men with the accent that you have, like working class men, having these conversations that you have, is for me personally has been a massive benefit, and just kind of like,
thanks, mate,
listening to your stories of like, when did the podcast launch, and like kind of what is the rough premise of Insane in the Membrane?
We started it. It came out it's been out a year and a half now. So it started in February 2019, and I didn't really know what it was about to start with. I must have subconsciously knew what I wanted to do, and it kind of formed itself. As I realized as the conversations were flowing, we were talking about not just mental health, but where we came from as people, and what we had to deal with when we were growing up, and is how we dealt with it. And then people hearing those stories were going, oh yeah, that happened to me. Oh good, I'm not alone. And it kind of snowballed from that. So it's about people talking to each other, and from that, people listening won't feel so alone. You know, all these, like me today, saying, look, all men are fucking animals, and we all need to have a look at ourselves. You know, that's really hard to admit, you know, and it's hard to admit that you need help with things, especially if you're a man for some shitty reason. So I do it just because I want to show people that this is what I'm still learning, and I'm still working myself out, but I'm doing it. And I've found people. I've had forgiveness and redemption, and it's all come my way because people can see that I'm trying to improve myself. So, and that's what the podcast is about, really, just showing people, men and women, that, you know, we're all as fucked as each other.
Yeah, and from listening to your story of like becoming like a dad at like an early age and stuff like that, as somebody who late 2018 became a dad, like your podcast hit me at a perfect time, and kind of going like, oh, like it can all be all right, like just men obviously having these conversations about like, and obviously like saying the podcast, it sounds like it's really heavy, and it's not. Like,
no, it's not at all.
It's immensely funny as well. Like it's got these moments of levity, and like just these amazing chats that like I think more men should be having, like
absolutely
through and through, and like whatever means in which you have to do that, whether it's like you feel that like you can have those chats in a park at the moment, or if it's after July 4th. In a pub garden, if you're that fucking moronic to do so that early, or if you're kind of like in the, I don't know, predisposed like me and Rich here to go, you know what, I'm going to start up a podcast, and that's my excuse to have chats with other people about stuff, about life, and you might need the guise of it being about Nicolas Cage to just have like conversations with people, which probably says something to my mental health, but that could be a whole other conversation.
You need to let the shields down, let people in. This is what we're doing today. We're getting there. Perfect. This is our first attempt at breaching your walls, your it just, my podcast is, you know, it shows men that you can still talk about things that bother you and trouble you, but you don't have to be it doesn't have to be heavy. Yeah. You know, it can be done in all manner of ways. It could be done like this, through the medium of a podcast, or it can be done just through like doing something, going off for a walk together, trying to talk to each other. Communication is key, and I say that all the time.
Amazing. So where can people obviously find the podcast, and where can people keep up to date with what you're doing? Rich, obviously eventually you will be let back out into the wild to be performing comedy.
I hope so. You can find Insane in the Membrane and Fembrane on all podcast platforms, wherever you get your platforms from. If you follow me on Twitter, I am Rich Wilson, or Instagram, I am Rich Wilson, or Facebook, I'm on there. And there'll be a smart link in the bios on each page. So even if you can't remember, if you can remember Rich Wilson, find me on these things, click on the link, and that will take you to wherever you need to be.
Perfect. I will, of course, leave all the usual, you know the drill, all the usual links in the show notes and stuff like that, where people can find you. And even I'll run it by yourself first, but if there's a clip on YouTube of yourself performing comedy as well, so it can whet people's appetite for when. Yeah,
I think I've got one I can send you. Yeah,
perfect. Yeah, so we can let people know that once this whole ordeal of lockdown is finally over and we all feel safe enough to play once more, that you can go see Rich in your local comedy club. Well, Rich, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on the podcast.
My pleasure too. Thank you for having me.
Well, there we have it, guys. That was the great Rich Wilson. And I will tell you again, it's going to be the third time in this podcast that I implore you to please check out Rich's stuff, whether that's on social media or his podcast. Please, yeah, definitely listen to Rich's podcast. It is great, and hopefully you guys will love him as much as I love him. If you feel vastly different about The Runner than me and Rich did, or if you have points that we missed, if there's any errors and omissions that you would like to bring up, you'd like to get in touch and have a go at me, you can do that as always on Facebook, Twitter and Instagram at CagedInPod, or you can send me an email, which is cagedinpod@gmail.com. I'm always up for having a chat, and if you follow me on those social medias, I'm always kind of like posting articles and just stuff I find, and just always there having a chat about stuff, always asking questions like I don't know, if Cage and Travolta were to do another film, would it be any good? Who would you like to see direct it? As of late, we've seen many Cage working with like plenty of like horror directors, or at least two, with one on the way possibly. And like, what directors would you like to see Nick Cage work with? These are the types of things we're chatting about over, especially on Twitter and Instagram. So please, get involved, create a nice little community. It'll be fun, and make sure you tune in next week to hear my conversation with the spookiest boys in podcasts that I know, James and Jamie from Sorta Ghostly, where we discuss 2015's Pay the Ghost. What happens when Nick Cage's son goes missing on a Halloween parade? Is it another kidnapping, or are there evil forces at play? Tune in next week to find out. So as always, I've been Petros Patsilivas. I have been caged in. You have been lovely. Catch you next week.